Experience the future of packaging and processing up close and in action. Explore groundbreaking innovations, engage with hands-on solutions, and connect with the experts transforming the industry. See how these advancements can revolutionize your products, production lines, and business. It all starts here. Don't miss out. Register today at packexpolasvegas.com/unpackedpod. You're listening to Unpacked with PMMI, where we share the latest packaging and processing industry insights, research, and innovations to help you advance your business. Hi, and welcome to Unpacked with PMMI. I'm your host, Sean Riley. In this episode titled Revolutionize Warehousing with the Advantages of Automation, we explore the exciting world of warehouse automation with PMMI Director of Custom Research, Rebecca Marquez. Rebecca discusses how labor shortages and the e-commerce boom are driving the push to automate. And she shares insights from PMMI Business Intelligence recent industry report, including which warehouse tasks are getting automated and what's on the horizon for automation and warehousing. Let's have a listen. So, with all the fancy introductions out of the way, welcome back to the podcast, Rebecca.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure is all ours. Today, we are talking warehouse automation. And automation has been a huge topic for, it feels like years now, whether it's for labor issues, just to get things out faster. Basically, automation's time has come. But why specifically automation of warehousing? You know, what makes warehousing such a ripe opportunity for automation?
It does feel like we've been talking about this for a long time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like every meeting, every conversation, automation. It seems like it's been going on and on. But you mentioned, one thing, labor shortages. And that's also been a conversation that we've been having for a long time, which was really exacerbated by the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And we're still experiencing that. I think we're not the only industry that's experiencing that, but it is one of the big drivers of having to automate processes. And so I think in warehousing, that's definitely one of the drivers as to why warehousing is being singled out. And then also warehousing specifically becoming a hot topic, like the automation of those processes because of the changes or the rise in e-commerce and direct to consumer. That was also a big part of the pandemic, right? Everyone wanted or needed things delivered right to their door because we couldn't go anywhere. We didn't want to go anywhere. We didn't want to see other people. So there was a huge shift to that kind of channel. And that hasn't really slowed down all that much either. I mean, that's a huge piece of convenience for people. And we seem to like that. So that shift is really leading to some automation needs as well. And I think that's why warehousing is really being looked at specifically in terms of how can we make these processes easier. So you have a combination of I cannot keep people, I cannot find people, along with holy cow, I need to get this new channel set up. We're going into direct to consumer. My e-commerce is really increasing. What am I going to do? Generally, the answer is automation of some sort. When we did this study for this report and we interviewed CPGs, because we interviewed CPGs for this report, almost half of them are expecting D2C or direct to consumer to increase over the next 3 years. So we really are not expecting this to slow down. I mean, really, this is only expected to increase.
You literally read my mind because that was what I was going to ask as the question. Is this something that we expect to continue? Is this something that everyone just kind of came out of the pandemic, but everybody loves it, so it's going to stay that way? So that's why this is so important.
We're thinking it's going to stay that way.
Yeah. Okay. How about companies that are in markets that don't do as much to direct to consumer business? How are they incorporating automation?
Well, when we did this study, what we found is that companies that have less demand for direct to consumer are definitely relying more on 3PLs. And it seems like the cutoff or the tipping point for that is around 20%. And what I mean by that is if a brand does less than 20% in D2C, they're likely going to use a 3PL. If they do more than 20%, they're likely going to invest in automation. So for our members, it's kind of a magic number that was uncovered in our study for this report. However, interestingly, it should be noted that it's not only small CPGs or those that carry out small amounts of e-commerce business that are turning to 3PLs. There's actually more types of companies that are doing that. There are some CPGs whose business is entirely done through e-commerce, and they are relying on 3PLs for their direct-to-consumer fulfillment and distribution. We're seeing that 3PLs are going to continue to play an important role in D2C fulfillment for CPGs, even as brands build their own capabilities. So some brands with a wide variety of products manufactured at different facilities don't want to spend the money on transporting goods between internal sites. And that means that if they were to perform their own D2C fulfillment themselves, it would be very expensive for them. So instead, they're choosing to use a 3PL and ship all goods to a central location where products can then be mixed into a single package and distributed to consumers. It's just a more economical choice for them in some cases to turn to a 3PL. So just keep in mind, it's not only really small businesses that are turning to 3PLs, it is a variety of businesses.
Interesting. Yeah, that would have been a question I would have asked, and you answered it, whether it was just small companies that were doing that, but apparently it's everybody. Okay. So we have a sense of why brands are automating warehouse op. What areas of warehouse operations are they choosing to automate the most?
You know, I will say that the journey toward automation, especially warehouse automation, is just that. It's a journey. And even at the top of this conversation, we were talking about how long we've been discussing this. It seems like a really long time that we've been talking about automation. Currently, two of the most automated processes within the warehouse are associated with logistics, and that's warehouse management and inventory control. So we're really looking at like softwares and stuff like that. This is probably due to the fact that both of those have a lower cost of implementation and a more appealing return on investment because of that lower cost of implementation. It's way more economical probably than doing some kind of really significant change to your infrastructure or via machinery. However, for machinery, we found that palletizing and depalletizing and secondary packaging have the highest levels in warehouse processes. There are so many processes, though, in the warehouse that are staying manual, which is crazy to me. And when interviews were conducted for this study, we did find that a lot of processes were still manual. Over 60% of the brands that we talked to were saying that a lot of the other processes that were involved in the warehouse are fully or mostly manual still.
Wow.
It's crazy. But keeping that in mind, even though more than half of CPG respondents in the study are saying that much is still manual, still 65% are also reporting that they are increasing investment in automation and that they have increased investment over the last 3 years. So we are seeing that this is on the rise. It is happening. It's a process. It takes some time. These can be expensive things to implement. And we're talking to businesses of all sizes. So it is going to take some time, but it is happening.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. While talking of, palletizing and depalletizing and logistics, is the growth projected to stay there, or are we expecting the growth to happen in other parts of the warehousing automation?
Well, we're projecting it to stay there. It is going to stay there. And one of the main reasons for that is that over time, and I've mentioned this a couple times already, there's been sort of a shift toward layered pallets and mixed case pallets due to SKU proliferation. Now, that push towards those different kinds of pallets provides a lot of potential for our members, because currently when you have a mixed pallet like that, it's a pretty manual process for a lot of brands because it's complex compared with like a single SKU pallet where you just kind of program it in and you can just, put it in a robotic palletizer or whatever kind of palletizer you have. With a mixed pallet, it's just a little more complicated. And so a solution to building a complex pallet at a lower price point is really an opportunity for OEMs. Just because a lot of companies are keeping it a manual process, this is kind of a wide open playing field for OEMs, especially since we're seeing this trend on the rise. We don't see this going away, particularly with labor shortages too. And one of the other underlying drivers for this is that this kind of manual activity of palletizing, depalletizing is extremely laborious and time consuming, and it can lead to a lot of work-related injuries. And I just recently conducted a focus group, maybe about a month ago, and one of the people in my focus group, as an aside, worked for a poultry processing company, and not a really large one, but we'll just say a poultry processing processing company where he was telling me that all of their processes are manual, that the company management is refusing to automate anything at all, warehousing and like anything.
Wow.
What he told me and the group, interestingly, was that management's opinion, and this is not his opinion, but management's opinion is that they're reluctant to automate anything because, and I quote, people don't break, machines break. And all I could think of was, but people do break.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
People do break, and people are very expensive to fix, which actually another participant in the group said, and is true. And this is another excellent case for automating processes. Anytime you have repetitive motion above the shoulder, it can lead to really serious work-related injuries. And plus, then you also have low throughput too. And that's, I mean, at the end of the day, we want to get stuff done and we want to get it done quickly. And you want to keep your workforce healthy. So we are looking at growth, staying in those areas. However, that all being said, according to our study, we're looking at growth in several other areas too. We heard people talking about automating boxing and cartoning. Mobile robots and AGVs are definitely, we're looking at those on the rise as well. Labeling and storage and retrieval systems, interestingly enough.
So it's coming. It's just, like you said, it's a journey. It's going to come piece by piece. It's going to start at the end of the line and work its way back.
I think that's how it's going to go.
Okay. Well, we can't thank you enough, Rebecca, for taking time out of your day to come on here and talk about the report. So us at the podcast would like to thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Please rate, review, and subscribe. To do that, go to the iTunes podcast or Spotify app on your phone and search for Unpacked with PMMI.